baby sleeping, so I'm making a video. I saw a friend at the weekend who commented that I have lost years since I had a baby, rather than getting older. I do have a nick because he's scratching me, but it is true. Whether it's some advance in stem cell therapy of getting stem cells when you're 49 and pregnant, I don't know, but it's happiness basically. And I wanted to talk a little bit about happiness and about I wanted to talk a little bit about happiness and the rationalization that can happen if you find yourself older, not married, not on the way to having a baby, and how's your life going to roll out, and whether you should keep on being on the same track or become a single solo mum. And I think when that whole subject arises, there's this idea about being happy and being childless, which comes from several places. So one of them is from ourselves. Let's say you're trundling along at work, or maybe not even trundling along. In my case, it was really struggling with work, hitting a glass ceiling, not feeling motivated to advance anymore, kind of like being there, seeing that, a bit like living in the centre of town and seeing all the bars and seeing all the great things. I'm just bored of it already. And not getting fulfillment from work and feeling like this emptiness. And there's another idea which I've come across, which I think I want to explore most in this post, which is I've heard, I might be misquoting him, but I got the idea from listening to Alan Singer podcast. He's a meditator, and he basically points out, and he's not the only one to say this, it comes from many Eastern traditions, I think, but I got the idea from him. Whatever feelings we feel, whether it's love or happiness, joy, the positive feelings, they're already inside us. And what we have is we have triggers in the outside environment in order to let them out. And he kind of explains it. He explains the idea of sanskaras, which are sort of, in the Eastern tradition, those are the things that block our energy, and it's the things in our personal history where we had an event happen to us, and if it's pleasurable, then we cling to it, and if it was harmful, we avoid it. And he kind of has these really useful metaphors, we go through life sort of protecting ourselves from our sanskaras, from these things being triggered. And it's you imagine water which is gushing down, which is all the energy we have inside us, all of the joyous energy, and there are rocks, and then the water has to go around the rocks, and then you just got to remove the rocks, which is kind of the process of removing sanskaras through feeling what you're feeling, and it can be through meditation, but it's to do with being present and coming to terms with who you are. Anyway, I encourage anyone to listen to Michael Singer. He's fantastic. And I'm sure my explanation hasn't done justice to what he teaches. But it does introduce this idea, of for me, it opens the idea of, intellectually it opens the idea that the joy from motherhood is already inside us. And so we don't actually need a child in order to have expression. So that's the second point about happiness and motherhood, and that's the one I'm going to focus on. But just to complete the map of happiness and motherhood, there's also the idea, which I don't want to pay too much attention to because I think it's true for some people, but basically a load of feminist, politically motivated crock for the majority of women, but obviously not all women. It's the articles in the Guardian, the Cosmopolitan, or whichever publication it is, saying you don't have to be a mother to be a woman, and not all women like motherhood, and obviously these are logically correct statements. There are unfortunately women who abuse children, so clearly those are not the Mother Earth types, and clearly there are women who exist who became mothers and had a horrible time of it and regret it, and there are women who are childless for biological reasons, and they are no less women because of it. But it's sort of bullshit because it's brushing over the vast majority of women. It might not be a 99% majority, maybe it's, for I know, a 60% majority, a 50% majority, but we are biologically designed for this. Form follows function in womanhood, and of course that isn't like an ironclad rule, otherwise I would be an illiberal person who is against homosexuality or something like that, but it's I think with the false idea that for too long the majority of heterosexual women who want to become mothers are given the full stage, it's falsely giving too much weight to the other side of it, and I just think it's not valuable, because for me the main reason that I think it's a load of crock is that I have listened to friends whom I know inside out who got to a stage in their life where it was still possible to have a child, and were influenced by those articles. Were influenced as well by other societal norms, like being single and being pregnant is a mark of shame, and backed out of taking a brave decision that maybe would have brought them a lot of growth and a lot of happiness. Obviously, who knows? But it's definitely an unhelpful angle to women. And personally, I just believe the truth is always better. And it also can give it's tough, isn't it? It gives like a false sense that if you end up childless in your 50s, 60s, 70s or whatever, that you're not going to regret it and you can have a fulfilled life. And I just think that there's a lot of emotional pain of women who are childless and older, what they go through that is not spoken about, and it's deeply painful, and it's delegitimizing their pain. That's what I believe. So we're not talking about that. What are we talking about? We're not talking about we're just going to be talking about the second point, which is, if it's true, sort of philosophically, from a Buddhist point of view, Eastern point of view, that like whatever emotions we feel, everlasting joy is already inside of us, then do we really need things in the external world to trigger it? Because according to that philosophy, you don't need to have a child in order to unlock the joy from being a mother. And clearly it's temporary. Like my gorgeous son is now 10 months old. He's not going to stay this age forever. And it's a bit like if you I don't know, move country to country that you love. You might have a honeymoon period of a week or 5 years, but eventually it wears off. And he's going to grow and change, and at some point we will have conflicts, and hopefully if I'm a good mother I won't personalize the conflicts, and I will just manage them as a developmental stage, so both he and I grow through it. But I'm definitely not perfect, and it's complex being a parent. I don't know what the future will go. May he be healthy and strong and that's it. But I mean, I know other women my age who now have kids who are in their teenagers or in their 20s, and as much as they love their kids, they're not joyous the whole time like I'm feeling at the moment. So I'm very happy that I'm experiencing this at the moment, and I know that it would be a very unhealthy psychological pattern if I somehow subconsciously concluded that I have the right to be joyous from my son, and that something's not right if I'm not joyous the whole time, because it's obviously just not like that. But if I look at my circumstances, they are definitely challenging. I woke up this morning to the news that hundreds or thousands of missiles were averted from attacking where I live. I don't have a safe room. I'm not even going to go into all the crap that's going on here, as well as stuff in the world. And I'm looking for a job, and whatever. I've got like a whole list believe me, I've got a list of challenges. And I'm sure if I hadn't tried for so many years, I at least I can say that I've developed resilience. But I feel like I'm operating on two levels, and the best way I can describe it is I don't know, nearly 15 years ago, maybe a bit less, I had fatigue for a year, which if you got it, by the way, what solved it for me was eating properly 3 times a day. It wasn't that I wasn't eating before, but the feeling of fatigue was, I felt, the best way I could explain it was I felt like my body had 2 batteries, and there was like a massive storage battery and like a short-term battery, and that when I was sleeping and eating, I would be refilling the smaller battery, but I had like a bigger battery inside that was powering me, and that was depleted to the stage that I remember. I mean, I was quite sporty, like I just went out for a 15-minute walk and I was exhausted. It was really bad. I'm sure a lot of it was psychosomatic as well, from a work situation, retrospectively. Now, I feel that metaphor of like there's the long-term battery, the deeper one, which you can never let it, if it gets depleted below a certain line, then you suffer from fatigue, and then you can only concentrate on filling up the short-term battery if you carry around this fatigue. So I feel in the same way that explains my emotional state at the moment, because he was born into a war and fleeing a country, and actually I had many advantages. I was recipient of amazing generosity from people, because of that, actually. But we are living through really challenging times at the moment, and it's incredibly volatile. It's been a very volatile situation. We've had 2 weeks ago we were in intensive care. It's maybe the 5th hospitalization he's had, but thank God it's okay. It's okay. And they're brilliant doctors, and middle of a war and all kinds of challenges. And yet I'm so happy. It doesn't mean that I don't get completely stressed out and anxious. And when the stress and the anxiety gets to a certain level, it's hard to be in touch with the joy that's underneath. But the joy is there. it's very deep. And then when I'm relaxed, and like this weekend, I had a fantastic weekend, and I've just been in a bubble this morning. I read the news headlines. I had friends contact me. I didn't wake up to sirens or anything, and it seems like for the moment it's over, but things could get spicy soon, and it's living with terrible uncertainty. Plus a whole load of other things which deeply concern me. Point is that it's like I'm living in two worlds. It's really weird. Now, coming back to that question, if it's true, which I actually think it is, that like whatever like positive emotions we have, they're always inside of us. They're just blocked most of the time. The question is, what else could unblock this absolute joy that I'm just living with him? Now, I had a dog actually from the time that I adore. She's gorgeous. Who's been like my daughter, to the extent that I've been told by friends to just like tone it down a bit. This is before he was born. But I didn't, because I love her to bits. And she gave me great joy. She still does. She's amazing. She's now like nearly 90 in human years. And in a way that gave me sort of a taste of it. Like I remember when she was a puppy, like she was 1 year old when I adopted her. Oh, he's woken up. Just one moment. I remember when she was a puppy, I actually had a little book which was authored by, I think, Douglas Adams, where he had like a little booklet dictionary. Douglas Adams, who wrote Life, the Universe and Everything, he had a little dictionary of words that weren't in the English language but should be. Like, I don't know, like that special trumpeting sound that two butt cheeks make together, or something silly like that. Like a whole list of like phenomena that exist that everyone knows, that doesn't have a word for them. And I felt like the joy that I got watching my little dog eat and drink water, it just gave me this type of pleasure that I'd never experienced before, and which I didn't know how to replicate it. And I realized it's like, oh, this must be like the pleasure of like having your baby or your child feed. It just like, I mean, and it's sort of true, like I get so much pleasure when he farts or poos. I mean, it really is like that. There's a whole universe of pleasures in life that having a baby opens up that can't really be replicated. So with my dog, who I think I maxed out on how much I could love her, and she was very much like my daughter for these last 12 and a half years. She's 11 and a half years, excuse me. I definitely maximized having her around. Like I was like a dog mother during COVID years as well, like at home all day with her. Like I definitely invested a lot in her in terms of love and affection, but it can't replicate what it's like having a baby. It just doesn't. And part of that is obviously because a baby's different and a human develops differently from a dog, and more slowly in a way. Like my dog understands more words than my baby still, I think, but I'm not sure. But it just isn't. And part of that, by the way, is the physicality of it, which is a politically incorrect thing to say, because what about women who use a surrogate, and what about gay parents who use a surrogate, and what about and blah blah blah, and what about adopted kids, blah blah blah. But you deny that truth, then you're just denying a truth. Like it's not a judgment of anyone else. It's, everything, nothing is perfect. Nothing is, I don't know if perfect is the right word, but nothing is, it's not, but it's just true. Like when he was born, I had great anxiety when I was pregnant, and then when he was born, I was like, it's on film, like I said, I always loved you, and I never realised, because I always loved you, but I was too afraid. it was only when he was born I realised how much I loved him, because all through the pregnancy, all of these pregnancy videos and talk to your baby, connect with your baby, meditate, and I was just doing it. I was like feeling nothing. And it was because took so long to get pregnant. I was so scared of losing the baby, and I just couldn't believe things were going in the right way. But there is something in the physicality of it. There's no doubt. There also, by the way, there's the baby and the mother exchange cells as well. He's got some of his cells in me, and I've got some of his in me. It's a known phenomena. I will post a link below. So I think I do accept the philosophy that whatever we're capable of feeling, and the positive emotions in particular, it's all inside us. I mean, I've done Vipassana twice, and I also had like a millisecond each time that I did it where I just felt things which I don't even want to try to put into words because I don't want to spoil it for myself, but sort of a deep sense of peace and things which are hard to put into words. And I do believe that's true, that it's all inside us, and that, you know, the correct model is that we go around the world and things trigger us, and things have left scars on us, or I don't know if scars, sanskaras, whatever you want to call it. And yet, well, I'm definitely not fully enlightened, and I don't think that it's possible to replicate having a baby and the joyous emotions that it can bring up. I just don't think it is. But to be more accurate in that doesn't mean that every woman who has a baby is going to experience the same joyous emotions. And you can feasibly imagine, just to formalize this a bit more, two women, A and B, Alice and Bertha, and Alice has a baby and Bertha doesn't, and Bertha has things in her life which give her as much of the joyous pleasure of having a baby as Alice experiences, because Alice is very blocked and Bertha is very open. I hope that makes sense. However, if Bertha is that open to life, to getting the joy from other things in life, not from a baby, then how much more she would experience joy if she had a baby. I hope that makes sense. And there are women who, I'm sure, do not experience the joy of motherhood, partly because of this crap stuff which is put in their heads as well. From society, I'm sure that does have an impact. It doesn't mean it's everything, but it has an impact. I'm living in a society which is very open to motherhood and to children, and just being in a society which is an uncomfortable environment for having kids, or a set of friends, or whatever it is, it will have an impact. And so my conclusion from this then, I mean, reaching that conclusion, I think it has quite a profound consequence, really. And I think it points to a massive failure of our society and way of life. I do. I mean, my baby's contentment and happiness and security emotionally is partly who he is. He's an easy baby, for sure, compared to other babies. But it's also not disconnected from how from my role. But clearly it's not all about me, but it's definitely not disconnected from me either. I am a full-time mother, or have been in the last 10 months. And that's also not disconnected from the support that I've had around me, which has been tremendous. It's come out of nowhere and been amazing. I'm still sort of got no support, but I have support. I really do. I'm very fortunate. Now, I obviously want only the best for him. And I hope that at every stage I do a good job and it will put him in good stead for life. I'll give an example of what I mean using my dog and my neighbour's dog as a metaphor. Dog as a metaphor. On October the 7th, when I was 8 months pregnant, I woke up to the sirens. I'd actually slept through the first siren. And I waddled out with my dog to the neighbour's stairwell. Now, the neighbours the neighbours' dogs were there too. So we were sheltering whilst these rockets were overhead in the stairwell of the building, because I don't have a safe room in my building. So we went next door, and they don't have a safe way either, but they do have a stairwell. And my dog, since I got her 11 years ago, we've lived through a few stuff. And whenever there were sirens going off and I ran to the shelter with her, I did a make-believe with her. Everybody, on Facebook, they're like, my dog's got anxiety, here's the sirens. I made it into a big game for her. And I told her we're going to meet new friends, because when you go down to the shelter or in the stairwell, whatever, you meet your neighbours. And so I kind of managed my own anxiety and tried to help other people, particularly if they're children, by talking incessantly to my dog and getting my dog to be friendly with them. Whereas some of the neighbours who were there with their dogs, 1 or 2 flights up, because I kept them separate, were, checking their phones for the news as the sirens go off. And their dogs were whining from anxiety. Hang on. So as a result of how they manage the circumstances, their dog's psychological state in life, so to speak, is that carries through to the rest of the dog's life, the anxiety of the dog. My dog now does have anxiety, but that's because of the trauma of being supplanted by my baby and us being apart and then suddenly coming back, and me not giving her the attention she's used to. So that isn't a great outcome for my dog. But until he was born, it was all honey. So my happiness impacts my baby a lot. And I saw that right from the beginning in one of the hospital episodes we had when he was very, very young. I'm talking about, less than 3 months old. And they had to run a procedure on him. I think it was some kind of ultrasound or x-ray or something. And I had to hold him down. It's not nice. And he was crying in the moment. But then after it was over, after the physical discomfort had gone, he was fine. There was no so-called sanskara. There was nothing to cling to. The baby, very young baby, living moment to moment, not really aware of his surroundings, like an older baby, and of individuals, aware of me, but sort of everything I think is kind of blurred out for him. And the physical discomfort was not pleasant, but once it had gone, it had gone. Whereas when I've been emotionally upset, someone in my family, for example, might have upset me, and it, very hard for me to shake it off in a minute, he picks up on all of that. So I avoid being in situations as much as I can, which is going to be emotionally hard for me. At the same time, of course, life is happening, So you have to confront things which are hard, but those emotional relationships which are hard, I just stay away from them, because I know as well that it impacts him. So the mother's happiness, and I assume the father too, is very important for a baby's happiness and impacts how they attach and how happy they are in life, and it's a grounding. And when mothers, and I'm only relating here to mothers because that's all I know, it would go equally to fathers, except the mother that has birthed the child is attached, and the baby is attached to the mother in a way which is different from the father. When mothers are not given the environment and the tools and the circumstances, or unable to provide it internally for themselves, for whatever reason, and I'm saying that without any judgment or anything, but it has an impact. It has an impact on the child, and it has an impact on the mother. And so all of these forces which distance a woman from her role potentially as a mother, and try to devalue and downplay the joy that comes with motherhood, it's just such a pity. And that's not necessarily even, that's not even necessarily just a political, societal thing. That's just also how people can speak. When I gave birth, it was in such challenging circumstances, and some people just talk very unconsciously in negative terms about motherhood, and they don't even know that they're doing it. They're complaining about it, or just have really negative attitudes, and I just ran away from all of that because I had enough hard stuff to deal with, and I just wanted to focus on the positive, and that's it. This kind of dwelling and complaining and focusing on it's a very powerless negative state, and not what I wanted around me. And being a mother is a very powerful, positive energy. That's where it should be in the positive sense. It's powerful in the sense, it's kind of like a non-doing sense of powerfulness. Why? Because, and this is the horrifying thing, being a mother, and this is the same for parents, but I'm just speaking of from being a mother, you have parents who are abusive, anyone who is abusive, God forbid, towards a baby or a child, they are so helpless. They are so helpless. A baby is hardwired to love you. That's why it's just such a disaster. God forbid that someone's abusive. They're so biologically helpless in that sense. I really got a sense of it at some point when I was changing his nappy. He was very, very young. He just looked at me, and I don't know what it was. I just sort of had that realization. So it's very, normally if you talk about power in the sense of physics, it's like a force over a distance, right? That's how you learn it in physics. You have a distance from A to B, and it's the application of the force, and then that's the realization of power. Well, it's just being a mother, the power in it is just the power from being. It's not the power from doing. Obviously there's stuff that needs to be done, but that doesn't make you powerful as a mother. Feeding your baby, changing the nappies, cuddling your baby, cleaning your baby. Cleaning, what does it involve? It means giving love, giving food, keeping clean. That's motherhood, certainly for the first, for a long time. That's after a baby's born. You're you're not going to make yourself more powerful as a mother if you feed more, clean more, but you can by giving love. But you don't, it's not love that requires effort. It just kind of, that's sort of the power. It's just a state of being, the love that flows out, that it's just sort of indescribable in a way, but maybe you know what I mean. That's the power in it. So it's power in being and not in doing. And positive in the sense that it's inherently positive, and if you frame it in the sense of being negative, then you're stepping away from the truth of what it actually is. So I'm immensely grateful that I have this gift of my son, and I'm immensely grateful that I have the privilege to experience this joy. I know that it's not going to, hopefully, like your stem cells, it will always be in me. You know, it's always going to be a part of me, but God knows what life is going to throw us. Him, me, but I suppose I wanted to make this video to give the message that you should never let anyone tell you that motherhood is like a dish that can be interchanged with some other dish. I just don't buy it, personally. And I really try to, in the sense that before I tried the last time with the fertility treatment, I went through internally the process of, well, I'm going to give up. It's just been too hard and I can't put my life on hold forever. And will my life really be over? Will it be so terrible if I don't have a baby? And of course I came to the conclusion it wouldn't be, and it's true. Like, it's not like my life, you know, would have collapsed. It doesn't mean that my existence would be meaningless without a child. I don't buy into that. But so I'm not trying to argue anything really, but I'm not trying to say if you're childless by choice or by circumstance that your life is meaningless. No, I don't buy into that, and I don't think something that a parent once told me, that like the whole point of life is having kids. I also don't buy into that at all. Not at all. It had a level of circularity in the logic which just frustrated me, and it was contradicted by a lot of stuff that I could see which was going on around me, and no, so I'm not going there with it. I'm not trying to say that. Every life is meaningful. But I don't think it's replaceable. Just don't buy into the lie that it's replaceable. And, you know, if it's not replaceable. And by the way, I'm saying this as a mother of a very easy baby. You know, I have my own perspective of motherhood. I don't have universal. God forbid if there had been more serious health issues or something. It's not that simple. I'm not trying to I don't know if sugarcoat isn't the right word, but I'm not trying to do like a cookie cutter thing. But I don't want women to be lulled into a false sense which disenfranchises them from actually the greatest power that we have as women to potentially reproduce. It is an immense power which our society just cuts us from. Anyone who's gone through IVF will tell you it's so strange to be conscious that for so many years you thought you'd get pregnant at the drop of a hat, and maybe you could have, That the worst thing in the world is to get pregnant, and then what it's like using reproductive technology to try and get pregnant and then failing. It's just bizarre. We are disenfranchised from this power. That's all. Just don't let the noise of others block you out from your feeling inside and your desire inside, because if you have that inside you, it's yours. Don't let anyone take it away.